Welcome to Riverdale After Dark, a podcast about the CW's Riverdale that, got a little dirty over here. Maybe gonna have to take a shower. I don't know. Jump in the shower, just gotta see what happens. Get all clean and then get dirty.
Are you fucking kidding me? Right on the box, you're gonna do this, you fuck!
When darkness falls, it's time to go in the bathroom, and when I go in there, I feel like weird now. Like, I blushed when I went in the bathroom and saw my shower, my regular old shower, where there's no Barchi sex happening. I'm happy. I'm Justin.
Yeah, I bet you're happy. Go fuck yourself. I'm Pete, both of you. This is too much.
I got to be honest. I don't even think I said my name at the beginning of there. I'm Alex because I was too into doing this. Woo! Big episode of Riverdale, huge episode. We're going to be talking about Riverdale Chapter 81, The Homecoming. Lots of stuff to break down here. I have to assume, as this podcast is going up, the entire Riverdale fandom is breaking apart and exploding right now. Very excited and nerve-wracked to see what's going to happen here.
Well, and let me say, I mean, it's such a great episode. There's a lot going on here, but also they're being pretty restrained with this. Like,
what?
The way the characters are positioned, I think it's so smart. They're just like being themselves. They're figuring it out. We got this great cleanliness, and cleanliness is next to godliness, they say. And they were just, it wasn't, I don't even know what you're worried about. They were just friends doing a classic, just clean them up on each other. And that happens.
Classic.
It's like,
clean them up
we're
on
jumping
each
ahead
other.
Here to a specific scene
wait,
in the episode.
Wait.
No, Pete, it's like the classic movies. You've seen them, friends with benefits, no strings attached, where there were friends who were having sex and it worked out fine. I turned off the movies halfway through.
Friends don't clean each other up. That's not how it works.
Classic friendly clean them up.
I had some friends in high school who did that. But anyway, that's another story.
That's a true story, and I've heard it, Alex. And I like that you reference it casually.
Wait, what? What just happened?
He had a bunch of friends who had sex with each other.
Yeah, there were two of my friends in high school who after school would be like, yeah, we just, after school, we're like kind of sweaty, so we go back and have a shower with each other. And everybody was like, okay,
that's
all right.
That's not real.
Oh, go off, Betty and Archie.
Yeah, Alex grew up in Riverdale.
I went to Riverdale High, yeah.
He was the Dilton.
There's lots to talk about here, and I do want to get into
it.
Well, here's the thing that I think I want to start off with. I want to do a little bit of recap for what happened on the previous episode. But like we talked about with the previous episode, we had not a hard reset, but a reset as things jump 70 years into the future. I certainly felt like, and part of what we discussed on the podcast is that this next episode would really be the proof is in the pudding type episode where, okay, you knocked it out of the park with the first one, cleaned the slate, still had the character relationships, still had the histories there, but we're really starting very fresh. Was that going to hold up with this episode? So keep that in mind while I go through the very brief recap here.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Well, all you really need to know is that Archie has returned to Riverdale from the army after 7 years to find it in shambles. Hiram Lodge is using the town, basically gutting it, to fund his own private community called Sodale, which is a commuter community in upstate New York. Everything is terrible there. The only one really holding down the fort is Toni Topaz, along with the Southside Serpents. She's held everything together. She's been working at the White Worm. She owns it now. And then upstairs at Pop Tate's, Pop is retiring, handing the diner over to his granddaughter, Tabitha Tate. Meanwhile, with the other characters, we found out Betty is in the FBI training program. She has battled unsuccessfully a serial killer called the Trash Bag Killer, has come back to Riverdale after that, and is also maybe kind of, but not particularly dating a guy named Glenn, who might be her coworker, might be her boss.
No Glenn
or
this episode.
Could be the
Glenless.
Trash Bag Killer.
Yeah, or could be the trash bag killer. Either way, Veronica, meanwhile, is married to a guy named Chad Gecko. As we find out this episode, her name, in
Chadwick.
fact, is Veronica Gecko. Chadwick, excuse me, use his full name. He is very controlling, just the way that Hiram was. She is bristling about it, doesn't like it. She was working in Wall Street. She was working in a jewelry shop right out of Uncut Gems. But she is, as we see more of this episode, definitely using coming to Riverdale as a bit of an escape. There's some other things that crop up with Veronica's storyline that come back from 7 years later that we'll talk about. The other one to mention is probably Jughead. Jughead released one novel that, as usual, was a thinly veiled anecdote about his time in Riverdale. As we find out, this episode is mostly about the Southside Serpents. They're not particularly happy about that. But he has not been able to write a single page since he's been in New York, clearly run out of the inspiration from the town that he comes from. He is running away to escape back to Riverdale, specifically from some creditors who are trying to chase him down. And
Very aggressive creditors, may I say.
yes.
With
Yeah.
a travel
Well,
budget.
They just need to take the Metro North. It's not a big deal. Just like half hour. It's fine. And the last one you probably need to know about is Cheryl and Tony. They also broke up before the 7-year time jump, specifically because Cheryl thought she was cursed. Tony didn't really accept that, but Cheryl has definitely doubled down on that and has been trying to renovate her old mansion of Thornhill and sunk most of her money into that. As we suspected the last episode, and we get a little more hints of here, she is being lured into some sort of art forging scheme by Nana Rose, probably in order to continue to fund those renovations. She's not quite as rich as we think. And the last character we probably need to know about, Reggie Mantle is working as an enforcer for Hiram Lodge. We find out more about what that means this episode.
He also works at a car lot.
What?
He also sells cars.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a second. And also some ghoulies have taken over Archie's house.
Yes.
So there you go.
They are hungry.
That's a setup, but I want to get back to the thing I threw out to you guys beforehand. First episode, quote unquote, first episode, great. Second episode, how do you feel it held up?
I really like I was saying earlier, I really like where they've just positioned all these characters and they're being very, it almost feels like the show grew up a little bit alongside the characters. Like it feels like there's such a confidence here in the way that they're just like, no, we know what happened with Barchi, with Bughead, all of that. And we're just going to enjoy the parts like the moments where Veronica and Archie were walking together, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm part of this. It was such a sweet moment of them walking together. The way they're handling everything is just so smart. I'm very impressed.
Pete, I know you have some specific feelings about certain parts of this episode, but tone-wise, how are you feeling about how the show is going?
Go fuck yourself, man. All right, you guys are acting like nothing is happening and everything is fine, and we're going to just go along with what it's... The world is crumbling around us. There aren't many things you can hold on to anymore, and it just sucks that they just keep getting taken away.
You're mad that the Ghoulies got kicked out of the house before?
No, I'm not mad at that, okay? That's not
You're mad?
what I'm
That Riverdale got unincorporated, which is a huge plot in a lot of teen dramas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when they did that on Punky Brewster.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
that whole comptroller storyline on Pretty Little Liars was devastating.
I'm having a hard time because I just watched the episode and I'm coming to grips with so many feelings and realizing I'm way too invested in a fucking TV relationship. Okay, it's a lot to deal with.
You need 7 years to think about it.
Yeah, I do. I do need 7 years. And I'm sick and tired of everybody on the show going, oh, well, 7 years ago, I believe was We get it, guys. It's been 7 years. You don't have to casually mention it's 7 years every couple of minutes. We get it.
Oh, you're just mad, Pete.
Yeah.
I like this episode as well. I thought this did a really nice job of, in a good way, splitting the difference between the Riverdale we know and the Riverdale we saw last episode. Last episode was shocking in how much it felt like a completely new show.
Wasn't
here
shocking?
now that we're back in the town, you have the regular Riverdale fun ridiculousness happening throughout the episode. Turns of phrase, scenes, plot points, etc. Things moving very briskly through all of the plot in ridiculous and fun ways. But like you were saying, Justin, it does feel like this more mature, confident storytelling. At the same time, it still feels like it doesn't have this weight to it in the same way. And that's great. It's fun to watch. I'm excited about it.
It feels free. It feels like anything can happen, especially specific things that we might talk about later. They could definitely happen. They could happen every week, maybe. No. In different parts of the house, different now.
Taking a shower every week? That's a little much.
I know, too. It dries out the skin. And honestly, though, I will say I didn't see them use a lot of like shampoo and conditioner. So if they may have just shampooed in this first shower, so they have to condition in a second shower.
Yeah, they probably came out and were like, I forgot to use my conditioner. And Archie's like, it's okay. We used it was a 2-in-1.
Yeah. And let's not forget lather, rinse, repeat.
Oh, you asshole.
So let's walk through the episode because there's a lot to talk about here. Jughead kind of sums everything up in the narration, resets the status quo. And to the point that we were making earlier, I do think a lot of the haven't you heard it's been 7 years type thing was feeding people the information if they missed the last episode and are coming back in, just doubling down on the idea of this is where we are, this is the time jump, this is everybody's status quo, let's move forward from here.
Yeah, and I don't mind because it happens a couple times in this episode where Jughead at the top is like, Archie went to war, Betty joined the FBI, and then later when they're announcing them at the school situation, they sort of lay out just what everyone's dealing with, and I appreciate that, even though I know what's happening. It really helps us keep what's top of mind for these people and why they're behaving the way they are.
I really like the way that was shot, the way they were like standing up to Hiram Lodge. That was really cool.
Yes, later on in the episode. We'll get to that in a moment. But then we get, as you mentioned, Justin, we get these two walk and talks, which I was very...
walk and talk.
All walk and talk. It was like an episode of West Wing up in here. I was very surprised to see these happen so quickly and pleasantly surprised at that, to see Bughead right up front talking about the relationship, Varchi talking about the relationship. I thought that was great.
I really loved the, why didn't you reach out right away? I don't need more awkward walking or getting maybe leading up to it. I was very excited about it, and then extremely heartbroken by the fact that maybe Jughead drunkenly called her like, I fucking made a book.
Hey, we've all been there. We've all been there.
I also feel like this is only the beginning of the sad things that we're going to find out happened to Jughead in the past 7 years, because he looks wrecked all episode long.
I think we should give it up for just the performances across the board, because they genuinely feel like adults, despite the fact that they've only aged a little bit. But they do feel very much like
they're playing their more natural age and.
Well, not even that they're natural age. I think they feel very different from the characters we've seen before. It feels like they grew up, and that's sort of the point. Because I don't know if you noticed this, Pete, the show's 7 years in the future from a couple episodes.
Oh, thanks, man, for telling me. I didn't put that together till right now.
And specifically, Jughead, is every shot, he's like just giving off, I'm a sad sack. Just like shooting it out of every pore of his body. And it's really... I'm not happy for him, and honestly, I feel bad for him, especially in this scene.
I feel really bad. But he also is enjoying having the top button open, so he can be like, I have a chest tattoo, motherfuckers.
He's loose.
Cole Sprouse is great here. I've loved him over the past two episodes. I love this new sad sack, dirtbag, Jughead, whatever you want to call him. It's very, very fun, very interesting. What voice is he doing? Because in this episode in particular, he's doing like a... Gravity, I'm an old-timey writer voice.
I'm Batman.
There's a little bit of that. Like, is he trying to go for Jack Kerouac maybe or something, I assume?
Yeah, like that's another thing that I feel like sort of kids who sort of grow up into adults, you play act a little bit. And when you're back home in your town, you're sort of like, hello, I'm back in town. I'm a New York actor, or whatever specific thing you're doing, and it's
whatever specific thing.
Yeah, that was just an example I pulled.
I'm
a classically trained actor now, high school crush. So,
I think
what have I been in? A play for no one in my apartment. Good night.
I think it's just he's hungover all the time, so he's just naturally grabby.
Yeah, I do think I agree with the putting on the voice thing, which I think is really fun. And it's such a weird choice that stuck out to me immediately. Also interesting, I thought, was immediately going for this real divide between Veronica and Chad, which wasn't quite as explicitly stated, I think, last episode. But this episode, right from her beginning conversation with Archie, she's basically like, I hate this motherfucker.
Yeah, she goes hard at it. And I mean, it was so sad watching Betty and Jughead talk because it felt like their relationship, it felt cold between them. Like
it felt very cold. But
they were a little bit hurt.
At the end there, she did be like, it is good to see you, Jug. You know what I mean? Like that was a nice moment.
Yeah, there's a distance between them, and I think they still care for each other, but it's definitely from a distant place. Jughead's line.
Don't add the distance thing twice in your fucking sentence, Dick. Like
they're socially distanced and emotionally distanced, and I respect it. They don't want to get emotional.
Why can't you just give me the had a nice moment? Why can't you just let that happen?
I like Jughead's line, good luck with that, dude, talking about Archie, which pays off pretty hard later this episode. But the Varchie they seem like pretty happy with each other and almost like dropping right back into where they were, which I thought was such an interesting choice.
There's going to be a lot of stuff going forward. I mean, we are only at the tip of the, what would you call it, fuckberg right now.
Oh, my God.
Kind of getting into it.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I can't deal with it. First off, though, I did the Veronica
Lather, rinse,
Archie.
repeat.
Oh, my God. Please stop. So the Archie Veronica walk and talk was really nice, and that whole kind of reveal, like the last relationship was very sweet.
It was very nice. Let's move on, though, because then Betty goes back home. We finally see Alice. She was missing the last episode. She is completely harried all episode long. Basically, she's taking care of the twins, who look to be, I assume, about like 9 at this point, right?
That. I thought it was interesting. They talked about them like babies still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though they were 2 when we left off, so technically they'd be 9 years old at this point.
When Betty walked in, there was this like weird looking, like, I don't know if it was like a fort or something on the couch that like, I don't know, looked like somebody was hiding in there, and it was really freaking me out.
It was probably the trash bag killer. But yeah, the kids are probably younger than they're actually supposed to be in the timeline because timeline don't matter in Riverdale. But Alice completely harried. She sets up that Polly is working, setting up Polly's reappearance later on in the episode, which is great. And then we get a montage of where everybody else has gone back. Veronica is back at the Pembroke. Doesn't seem particularly happy about that. Archie goes back to the El Royale, and Jughead goes back to the sex bunker, which is so sad.
Bad choice, dude. But let's say great cell service for a bunker for sex underground.
Yeah, right. I was really impressed with how clear.
Well, it's also a phone sex bunker.
Yeah, turns out.
Oh my God.
Yes. So then we loop back to something that was set up the last episode. Betty ostensibly was sent back to Riverdale to clear out the FBI office left by Charles, her serial killer brother, that was sitting there for, I don't know if anybody's mentioned this, 7 years. And Kevin and Betty do it together. Great to see Kevin and Betty again. Again, like just in terms of resetting the table here. We have not really seen Kevin and Betty hang out too much. Kevin is very much a part of everything. It feels like they're balancing out the cast. Could not be happy about that. But Kevin, immediately she's like, whoa, there's a tape. Here's the exact tape I need to hear to power my storyline.
Wait, but though the Kev, like, hey, how was the Bughead reunion? Was hysterical. I love how Kevin knows he's at a TV show. It's very enjoyable the way Kevin can play with it. I'm loving Kevin more than ever.
Kevin's a big fan of Riverdale. He sits down before he lives every day and watches the episode about that day.
Smart.
And he also watches an episode of Succession, it seems like, because he talked about that a fair amount in this episode.
Plug in other shows.
Is Kevin in some sort of early edition type situation where a cat is bringing him, what was it, tomorrow's newspaper?
It wouldn't be, if it was yesterday's, it wouldn't have been much of a show, Alex.
The concept of the show is a guy reads the newspaper.
Reads an old newspaper. The Mets lost.
Oh, come on.
I like the idea that everyone is getting tapes delivered at last season on their porch, and Kevin's like, yeah, I get an episode of Riverdale delivered to my door every day.
It's pretty good. You should have seen all the stuff that happened during the time jump. Pretty boring.
Oh, man.
Hiram and Veronica talk. They kind of explain everything that's going on to each other. We get an interesting note. It doesn't sound like he was at Veronica's wedding, which I thought was kind of fascinating. And I feel like that's something we'll loop back to before. Also, and I'm sure we'll get to the other points of this plot line as we jump through it, but I like this. Like, we were hitting a lot of the same notes that we have previously with Veronica's storyline, but it felt like the power dynamic was different, and the way that Camila Mendez and Mark Quinzuelas were playing it was very juicy, and they were clearly having a lot of fun with each other, which was great.
Yes,
Juicy.
they did play well off of each other, but it was driving me nuts that Veronica has gone back to not only talking to her father, but trying to do deals with him and have him help. It makes me so mad to see Veronica in the same room with her father. I know the actors are great together and that kind of thing, but that man has been nothing but a fucking monster. Why do you keep going back to this guy?
Well, because it worked. Because I agree with Alex. I like this. It worked forever that they would go and do deals. They would each find a way to win until, as we saw earlier in these few episodes from this season, when Veronica was like, "You're a dog that needs to be taught a lesson," which comes up in this episode.
Sure does.
And here Hiram's like ice cold. He's like, "I'm done helping you no matter what. I'm here for myself." Like, he's a harder villain. He doesn't care about Riverdale anymore, including his daughter. So he's ready to just be ice cold. And she did not see that coming. I like that change.
I don't see how she could not see that coming.
So then we get another great, really sad scene with Jughead where he goes to the White Worm, is talking to Toni. He wants a job there to pay off his creditors. And we find out that, as mentioned earlier, his whole book, it's not The Outsiders. What was it? The Outskirts or something?
The Outcasts?
The Outcasts. There we go. Is explicitly about everybody, and they hated it to the point that I think Fags was called Toothy and Sweet Pea was called Popeye.
Popeye, yes. And I got to get up. Jughead's like, "Why are you mad? I called them the Vipers, a slightly different version of the truth." Who saw through that?
Ridiculous. I want the CW to release that book, though. I want to read that book.
Man. Oh, yeah.
Where it's just
definitely.
find and replace of the first 4 seasons of Riverdale. That's going to be a lot of fun. But great scene. Love Toni shutting everybody down this episode, and I love that she continues to keep center stage here. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the fact that she has so much control of what's happening, I think is great, and really sets up the main sort of story point of the school in this episode, and the repercussions of that I thought was just awesome.
Now, let me ask you something. If you're down in the White Worm, but you want some food, you got to go all the way up to the Pops, or do you think they got like a little dummy waiter or something where you can get like food delivered down? Like, how does that work?
They do have a dumbwaiter, Jughead.
Oh!
You're welcome for the setup.
We could edit that one out. Just kidding.
No, that was great. I loved it.
No, we don't edit anything. Yeah, I got to. Is the menu available on the
I
two
have
floors?
to imagine, right? Like,
I guess
the two
it's separate owners.
Yeah, I mean, Hiram explains this, that Toni bought it separately, so Toni owns the White Worm, but Tabitha owns Pops. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's how real estate works or something. It just feels like the White Worm was never around until Veronica's like, we're going to use the basement here. This is all part of the same building. But I guess they separated in terms of rent. I know a lot about financials, and that's why the main plot line here that gets set up made a lot of sense to me, where Weatherby is freaking out because Riverdale High is going to be shut down on Monday. And it turns out the whole plot here is that Hiram wants to unincorporate Riverdale, which is going to shut down Riverdale High, so I assume so he can take all that money and divert the funds to Sodale. But Toni and co, throughout the episode, come up with a plan. What they're going to do is, if they can unincorporate Riverdale, then Riverdale High can become a private school, and then they can hire people who are not trained as teachers.
A great scam. It's just 100%. That's 100% because they don't need to be accredited by the state if it's a private school, so that's why you get to hire your friends. And I'll tell you what, that's a lot of loop-to-loop to get to the idea that they're going to hire the gang to teach at this school.
Well, particularly for a show where Archie is held down to 50 jobs with no training whatsoever, that they're like, no, this has to be factual now.
I'm also really confused by this. The reveal at the end, I was like, what does it matter if it's incorporated? Like, why does the town need to be incorporated? Like, they were like, this township is no longer a thing. And I was like, well, who cares?
Well, because the point they make in the episode is all the funding to keep, like, the places going, like the infrastructure going, it goes away if you're not a town anymore. Because if you're unincorporated, you're legally not a town.
Yeah, but there's still a town.
But they're not going to get any funding from the state. They're not going to get any funding from the federal government, anything like that. So all the things that they've been talking about, like the fire department, the sheriff's department, social services, all these things that are on their last legs, they're not even going to have the funding to continue that, including Riverdale High, which means eventually the town is going to become a literal ghost town, not a literal ghost town. There won't be ghosts. I just wanted to specify that for you, Pete.
Alex, don't get crazy. This could be a town of ghosts.
Yeah, that's true. And also, Cheryl bought the Incorporated, so it's fine, I guess, right?
No, that's not what happened. We can talk about that maybe later on at the end when we get to that. But I think this is setting up the story of the season, which I bet you this season ends with them making Riverdale a town again.
No, I think how this season should end is we do a deep dive into where our taxes go and find out like what kind of funding schools actually get versus, what they deal with,
Mm-hmm. I'm on Justin's side. I think the last shot is going to be, great job, guys. We made Riverdale a town. Let's head to the showers.
This is not going to be a fun running bit.
Townwide shower. Everybody rides. The Gargoyle King is a great tax preparer, though, if you're interested in getting involved.
Would you, of the Riverdale villains, just rank them real quick, Pete, who you would be most likely to least likely take a shower with? Gargoyle King, Black Hood, Clifford Blossom. I really don't want to say the last one.
None.
Okay. Yeah, Charles is pretty handsome.
Nope.
Wyatt Nash? That's a hot dude. Pete.
Cool.
I bet he could clean your back.
I mean, honestly, the Gargoyle King needs a lot of cleaning.
I don't think I could reach the Gargoyle King, but thank you for this
right
fun.
Here, back between my shoulders. Can you get that?
This is
I'll give you some crazy fizzle sticks.
Sticks.
Can we get to the elephant in the room yet, assholes, or what?
No, that's way deep into the episode. Just like how Archie was way deep into Betty.
Oh, come on.
Alex.
Have some respect, you fucking asshole.
Too much. I don't know that. They didn't show that on screen. Anyway, so Jughead is at
really?
Pops.
I saw that.
You usually draw the bottom half of the TV, right? With some pieces of
keep
paper.
A sketch pad right underneath the main screen. Just draw whatever I want.
So Jughead wants a job at Pops. Tabitha completely shuts him down. We go over to the scene we mentioned earlier of Hiram talking to Toni. He wants to hire a way to Stonewall, but she's like, no, you're a bad guy. I'm absolutely not doing that. And then we get the Bart. Yes,
I really, really liked the way Toni was like, no, you are fucking morally a fucking monster. I'm not going to do any kind of business with you because that's a horrible idea. Why are people still doing business with Hiram Lodge? Are you fucking insane?
It's a good question. I guess Toni has some good business sense.
Yeah, can you imagine anyone maintaining the ability to do business in this country for years despite all of the bad shit that they do?
Wow, dude, you just fucking blew my mind with that.
So then we get the beginning of everything that happens on this episode. Betty brings some beers, possibly root beers, not 100% sure, to Archie. They're watching the Ghoulies across the street. She very helpfully reminds him that she's with the FBI if he needs any help, and then gives him the idea to go talk to Tom Keller, who is holding down the sheriff department all by himself. They talk about getting back the Andrews house, and basically is like, if you can find some drugs in there, I'll help you. So that sort of sets up that thing. Then we jump over to Veronica, having a very fun montage. Love the visuals here, just spinning around her laptop. She is basically running away from Chad at this point, applies for a job in California, tries to buy a plane ticket, finds out her credit cards aren't working, call Chad, and he says, I have the same problem. Don't worry, I'll figure it out as soon as you get back to New York. When is that, by the way?
Yeah, smooth Chadwick.
Very
fucking asshole.
I thought it was interesting she's going to become a sports agent in Los Angeles.
Yeah, what is that? Not Entourage. Ballers? She's going to be in Ballers? Okay.
She's going to be a real-life baller.
Yeah, there you go. The biggest surprise of that scene, though, is Smithers is still alive and hanging out.
Smithers!
He's hanging by a thread. He's hanging by a thread.
He notices a weird car. They're not 100% sure what that's about. Later on, we find, in fact, it is. Chadwick has sent somebody to go spy on Veronica. She dresses up. Once again, we get to see Monica Posh. Dresses up, sells her Glamourge egg, gets a gun. Interestingly, we don't see what happens with that gun this episode. So real Chekhoving going on there, I think. That's definitely going to pop up at some point. And then we go over to Betty. Great scene here. She's still having nightmares of the trash bag killer.
I just wanted to say she didn't just buy any kind of gun. She was looking for a tasteful revolver, okay? Mm-hmm. Something classy.
Like one made out of chocolate or strawberries or something.
Not that kind of tasteful.
Yes. So where were we? Then we get a great scene. Betty has the nightmare of the trash bag killer, and she comes downstairs and finds Polly is sneaking around downstairs, and they make tea and apologize. What did you guys think of seeing Polly again?
All the emphasis on Polly in the first half of this episode stressed me out. I was like, oh no, I thought she was gonna be some sort of villain here. Obviously, we don't know exactly what happens to her by the end of the episode. But yeah, I don't have a good feeling about what's happening with Polly.
Pete?
Yeah, it was real nice though, the way that Betty apologized and was like, "Hey, maybe we can be real sisters and like try to have a nice relationship." I thought that was very cool of Betty. I really liked it, and I'm sad about by the end of the episode, but I had hope.
Oh, you had hope for Betty. Sorry, for Polly. I felt like there was more to that sentence, but I guess not. But yeah, no, I liked.
I just had hope that Polly and Betty
it just ended on a note where you're like, I have hope. It just felt like that there was more to it. But
yeah, well, the more is that all of a sudden we cut to Polly later in the episode, and so
being run down by a truck. I'm sure she's fine. I think fine. Well, I say fine, like not dead. I think she's not dead. I think they're doing some sort of. I don't know if you've been watching the hit show Big Sky over on ABC.
Don't talk about other shows like it matters what other shows are doing when this show.
It's about a bunch of truckers who capture young girls and sell them into sexual slavery. So I think that's probably what's going on here.
Okay.
Wow.
That was very specific and very weird, Zelbs.
Well, or something like that. Point being, I think we're going to find out, oh no, what happened to Polly? She's gone missing. Betty goes track her down, and we'll find out what's really going on with the truckers, which I suspect is not exactly murder because we haven't seen any dead bodies as of yet. But I did like them bonding, and I like Polly constantly being suckered into just the absolute worst situations time and again.
Oh, yeah. It's heartbreaking.
We get another scene with the Coopers. Betty comes down. Alice is still losing it, making breakfast for the twins. And then something that has never happened, as far as I can recall, in the history of Riverdale before happens. Toni comes over to Betty's house. I don't think we have ever seen Toni on that set at any point.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was weird.
Why is that?
It was great. I was happy to see her not trapped in Cheryl's house or anything like that. She's been so many other places. But when Alice was like, oh yeah, Toni's coming over for the meeting, I had a moment of pure whiplash where I was like, what? Is she allowed inside?
What do you mean allowed?
Calm down, Pete.
What the fuck are you saying?
What I'm saying is the show has held her in specific places for seasons at this point. She's been off in her own storyline. She's never really interacted with Alice or honestly even Betty other than a couple of small opportunities. So to see her in this new thing is refreshing and exciting. That is
the transformation is complete. She's at the center
agree.
of the show. I don't think we need to worry about that ever again.
I did like how Mom was a little bit like, Betty, you shouldn't judge us. I mean, sure, I've done horrible things to you, and, you seem to be the only one holding the family together, but please don't judge me and Polly.
Well, along came Polly, I always say. Archie and Jughead talk. He still can't really write anything, but Archie says, hey, can you write a speech for Pop? That would be great. And he says, yeah, no problem. Love staying at the 5 seasons. Such a sad shot at the end of him sitting alone in the sex bunker, unable to write. Very, very sad.
Or have sex. It was interesting that, as we learned later, that this piece he writes about Pop, maybe he's going to help get his career back on the page, and Archie was the one who did it.
Who
inspired
like the
him
dream from last episode where he was wounded and Archie picked him up. Also very weird to send your agent a speech for your diner owner and it'd be like, this is a book.
Well, it's in fairness, it's the only thing he's written. So when someone wants pages, I mean, he's been staring at an empty page for days. So yeah, might as well send him that.
This, my friend, is a book. A menu. For a diner. This should be printed on a menu in a diner. Good day. I am an agent in Manhattan.
Then we finally go over to Reggie, who we didn't get to see a lot of the last episode. He's a real scumbag, this guy, at this point. Man. Working as a scumbag landlord, scumbag.
You can tell because his hair is stupid. That's how much of a scumbag he is.
100%. Is there... So much bad shit goes down with Reggie in this episode. Is there a redemption coming for him down the road? I know we're very early in the storyline.
I hope so. I hate seeing evil Reggie. It really bothers me.
I'm telling you what. Give me that Veronica. Give me that man Monica relationship.
You think that's coming back?
I think if we're going to redeem Reggie, it may come through a Veronica. Because I do think there's a nice nexus there where... Reggie works for Hiram. Veronica lost her in with her dad directly, so maybe if she needs Hiram to do something, she goes through Reggie. And they did have a sort of short romance for a while. Like, I'm ready for that to come back.
I'll tell you what, I hadn't really thought about that before, but there was an interview that Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa did where he said Archie never in a million years would cheat with Veronica while she was married. He would never be with her. He would never do that, betray her that way. Reggie would, though. And potentially, 100%. As Veronica is trying harder and harder to get away from Chad, having an affair is kind of like that last level there. I could see her manipulating Reggie into a place where they get together just to push Chad over the edge.
Or maybe it's not a manipulation. Maybe, Reggie and Veronica find some kind of common ground, and it's a nice relationship.
Maybe they catch a feeling in there. Look, Pete's found his new bughead in the form of Man Monica.
Don't you fucking...
This is the new... It's going to be Reggie all day, air day at the end of this episode. No. Reggie all day, air day. I'm not manipulating you.
It seems like
so the big thing that happens here is they go through the Andrews house as they find no drugs, but Polly is there, which Archie tips off Betty about later. Then we get a brief, very fun...
Real quick, I just want to say, those ghoulies spend a lot of time putting on makeup for cannibals.
Yes.
As cannibals, they have a lot of makeup in their budget.
For a second, I thought you were going to talk about Polly's coat, which is very good. That is a good coat.
Good coat. It really catches the eye.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I also thought it was weird. The noises they play when we are outside the Ghoulies' house are fucking crazy.
Well, they're eating a lot of people.
I do really like this new Archie, and I love the fact that he's like, oh, well, we can maybe use Reggie for this plan. Like, I thought that was real. I like a smarter Archie. I think this is exciting.
So then we go over to Jughead. He's interviewing Pop. Suddenly the creditors come there. He hides. Tabitha doesn't give him up after a little nod from Pop, and then ultimately actually gives him a job as well, setting up this new status quo and potentially a new romance going on, I would say.
Well, easy with that.
Jugatha?
But I did really like how
Tabhead?
I really liked how she reacted being called Sweetie, then called him Pumpkin. That was really great. That was very nice.
We didn't get to see much of Tabitha last episode. What did you think about her this week?
I like her. It's nice to have someone at Pop's who's not Pop walking over being like, maybe they're just busy, your friends. And that's why they didn't show up. Like we got a character with a little juice here. No disrespect to Pop.
Yeah, don't disrespect Pop, man.
I would never disrespect Pop.
Seemed like you were disrespecting Pop.
The final Pop in the line of Pops before Pops becomes Tabs. Very excited for that. Tabhead it is.
I really like the fact that she was like, I'm not, when I'm running things, there's no running up a tab. So I like her, and it was really nice the way she offered him a job.
Do you think that was a little subtext there? No running up a tab?
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about, Pete?
No.
Running up a tab.
If you had to guess what he's talking about, what do you think it is?
What would be the hint there?
I don't want to listen to you shipping fucking relationships, okay?
What would you prefer, I ship? Ships?
Yeah,
you should ship ships.
I'm at a very weird place right now, so hearing about other relationships is not helping.
I'll tell you what, my number one, Titanic and the Intrepid. I'm a total tepid head.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Go back to the sex voice you were using a minute ago.
That was less gross. So we get the scene of Veronica wanting the car from Reggie. He says to go talk to Hiram. And then Betty and Archie make some plans. They're pretty hepped up. They're going to go.
Car salesman, by the way. When someone comes to you to buy a car and you say, go see your father, like, Reggie, you can't sell a car? You can't fucking make some things happen?
Hiram's his number one job. Used car is his second job. Landlord is his third job. He's the new Archie. I'm calling it right now.
Wow. Yeah, Archie's the new Reggie.
Yep.
Reggie's the new Archie.
Then we get this great sequence here. Betty and Archie are making plans. They're going to kick some ghoulies' asses. Kevin, Sweet Pea, Fangs, Tom Keller join them. And Betty and Archie break into the house. Great action sequence. Take over the house, find the drugs, arrest the ghoulies. Yes, Pete.
It was like the first off Betty being like, I'm pissed. Let's fucking do this. And then the Hold On, I'm Coming song playing. That was really well done. I'm a sucker for a nice montage with some music, some great action, a bunch of assholes getting their ass kicked. Just glorious. Really fun. I felt like I was watching Umbrella Academy for a second.
Just the FBI teaming up with another group of aging gang members and one dude who owns a boxing gym.
Classic FBI. Betty calls, finds out Polly has no job, and then we get the school meeting we mentioned earlier. I wrote down lots of financial talk. And that is pretty much it.
We get a huge new character here. Miss Crouton.
Yes.
Who bails out... the way I laughed so hard when Kevin's like, Miss Crouton, she so fucked funny. Us.
Well, that was hilarious. Like, there were a couple of points, like I mentioned earlier, throughout the episode where it felt like, oh, okay, we're still watching Riverdale, and that was definitely one of them. If anything, Kevin is the one who's holding down old school Riverdale while everybody's like, no, we're on this new show that's very cool. Kevin's like, nope, let's talk about Miss Crouton.
I love it.
So good. Also, he calls out Succession, as you mentioned earlier. Then we go back to Veronica. Great scene with Hiram asking for help. He strings her along the entire time until he says, no, get out of here. Figure it out yourself.
He was like, let me get this straight. You're asking for my help? And then gives a cold no.
Mark Consuelos' expression when he said that was delightful.
He's harder now. He's like, this is an edgier Hiram, and I like it. He's a real villain, I feel like now.
Oh, yeah, there's real
It's
villain.
Great. Back at the Cooper Smith house, Polly shoots back at Alice and Betty. Betty reveals what's going on with her. She freaks out at Betty. It's a pretty fraught scene and leaves. Meanwhile, Jughead is writing his speech. As we mentioned, he sends it to his agent to show he can still write. And then we get a scene. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what happens in the next scene. So let me just kind of walk through it just a little bit. So Betty and Archie.
Yeah, a lot of times when I want to remember something, I just start talking about it and just see where that ends up.
Pete just took off his headphones. He can't even hear it.
I'm sure he'll hear it when he meticulously listens to this podcast after we're done.
Are you guys going to be mature about this, or are you going to be assholes and just dig knives into me?
Hey, you've known us for years, Pete. Are we going to be mature?
No, you are not.
So Betty and Archie are sweeping up the old Andrews place. They're getting real dirty in there.
So much sweeping. You know how much there's a dirty house.
Oh, my gosh. Sweeping it up, not worrying about the walls, mind you, quite yet. They'll get to that later. Both very hungry. They're going to get a pizza. Betty is like, yeah, I could definitely go for some pizza. I'm real hungry.
I could eat
something, I guess. And then they realize, ooh, they're very sweaty. They both want to get a shower. There's so much sweat going on. How do you conserve water in a town like Riverdale that has hit hard times? Take a shower together.
They did it for the public good. Now that the town's unincorporated, that's a lot. They're not going to have a lot of water. And here's a little behind the scenes thing. It wasn't actually water. It was more sweat coming out of the shower head. It was a sweat shower. I mean, let me just say, just the moment when they're working and it's all pretty normal, and then they look up at each other, I was like, I was like, the sexual tension, I was like, it came out of nowhere. And then when they said the word shower, I was like, oh, I forgot that the shower scene from the trailer might be in this episode. Visceral reaction. I'm still blushing. I'm blushing.
Pete, any reactions there?
It was awful, but they got it out of their system. They're going to move on now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Just that's how sex works. One and done.
But it was
that was
nice
amazing. Let's never do that again.
Yeah, afterwards they were like, "Hey, we're just friends." You know, yeah, we're just friends. But that smile that Betty gives him,
she's like a lioness who just caught a fucking antelope. She's laying back on that couch like,
well, here's the thing.
Hungry.
I honestly
Mama's hungry.
I honestly think this whole sequence did exactly what it needed to do. We know from the pilot of Riverdale, let alone the lore of Archie comics, that Betty and Archie were going to get together in some fashion. And every time that they've gotten together previously, it's always been in the middle of another relationship. It's always been fraught in some way. It's always been something that they can't complete, or they're both in a different place emotionally. You know, at the very beginning, Archie was still getting over being molested by Grundy, basically, had just met Veronica. All of these things are going on, and we've kind of gone from there. This is the first time they're both free, as they talk about, to do whatever they want in their 20s. And like Betty calls out, this is something that they both really wanted to do for a very long time. So to do this, I know it was a very graphic for network TV sex scene. Yeah. Very much so.
It was a hot scene. And obviously, I have some interest in this relationship, but...
Yes. Well, all I wanted to say is that's what they needed to do in the show, right? Like, this is something that Betty and Archie have been waiting for, but this is something the audience has been waiting for 5 seasons as well. So for them to do, like, the very typical, them look at each other, kiss, fall onto the bed, fade to black, you can't do that. You have to have, sorry about the word, you have to have an explosion there, and that's what went on.
That shit was hot, dude.
Pete, what was your favorite part? Was your favorite part when Betty kind of like grabbed the back of his neck, when Archie slowly caressed her waist, or when they bit each other's lips?
Man.
Okay, I mean, I enjoyed the scene, but Alex, I didn't
really
write
creepy,
it down.
And
I didn't write
Jesus Christ, how many times did you watch that scene, Zalvin? What the fuck?
Infinite.
Yeah, it's playing on his glasses right now.
Oh my God.
I don't even know how I did that. Please get it off. I can't see anything else.
Yeah, I can't be with my wife and kids. I mean, this scene was like you said, it did everything it needed to do, and it was like it made you want that relationship.
No, it didn't.
Even if you're not, like, say you're just a normal outside fan who hasn't made up their mind and had been pulling for this for. Honestly, when they started the podcast, this is a hypothetical. This is a great scene. I love afterwards. Archie's like, Betty, what just happened?
Yeah,
as
what
if
just happened?
He's like, honestly, what is sex? I don't know. I thought that was just a shower. What just happened?
He hasn't had sex for 7 years, so he might have forgotten.
Yeah,
he has a lot of problems with object permanence, like a baby.
You dumbass.
That's what they say. Sex is just like not riding a bicycle for 7 years.
Sex is like pizza. If you haven't had it for 7 years, what's a pizza?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So they do have this great conversation.
Just one last thing about this. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Afterwards, though, there is a little note here that I think is important to point out, which is that Archie, after they're like, yeah, this is cool, we're friends, we're 20, it's cool, whatever, we can do whatever. Archie's like, hey, don't tell Jughead or Veronica. Which Betty, of course, is like, yeah, I don't know, we're not in relationships, why does that matter? Not catching on to the fact that this is going to become a little more serious, I think, than either one of them expected.
You don't know that.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever seen Archie before or seen him make any choice in any way? He very rarely is like, yeah, I'm sort of into this thing.
He decided he wanted to go to the army, and one day later he was in the army, for example.
He could not see soldiers even when he closed his eyes.
Yeah, but he was also a musician for a while, and that never came back, so what the fuck. But anyways, let's talk about, Pops in the speech. Let's move on.
Was there more of the episode? I blacked out after this.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. My TV exploded.
Pop's goodbye celebration, very sweet. Jughead gives a speech. Everybody's there. They do
was nice. That was really well done. Jughead getting kind of like choked up, touching his eye there. I thought that was really well done. And as far as like acted, like that was very well acted.
It was great. It was all very sweet, saying goodbye to Pop. The scene afterwards is the one that got me. I know I'm always in the tag for Shody, but I thought the way this is played and the way they're letting the relationship go out over the course of the rest of the season is really sweet. Cheryl and Tony talk. Tony first presents it to Cheryl as, hey, we want you to fund Riverdale High. Cheryl says, listen, I didn't even want to come out here. It was only for Pop. And then Tony softens and says, would you do it for me?
Yeah,
and the
if
love
you ever loved me, like that was,
I got a little misty. I got a little misty in my eyes at that point.
I think that was just the shower you had going in the background.
Never stops, man.
I liked the way they're playing all these things sort of slow. Like even the scene we just talked about, the aftermath of the shower scene, like very slow, not big swings yet. The performances are understated. Here, we see that they still care for each other, but they're not ready to talk about it or share it or get into it. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree. Then Archie gathers Veronica, Jughead, and Betty at Riverdale High and convinces them all to be teachers. Really nice to see the core four again. At this point, I'm curious whether the show has gone for, okay, we've gotten past this enormous hiccup at the end of high school where everybody was very split apart and now everybody's friends again, or if we're setting it up that they're all back together so that something is going to drive them apart again. What do you guys think?
Oh, I think this is going to get messy almost immediately. I love the idea that they're all teaching there. I like all their lines. They're all in. Betty, I need to be here for my mom and shower. I mean, Polly, Jughead talking about his stuff. Veronica bailing on her sports agent career, her Jerry Maguire dreams.
But all good stuff. We get Tony going mano a mano of Hiram. They do, in fact, liquidate Riverdale, so it is done as a town, as we mentioned before. But Cheryl is bankrolling Riverdale High, which is going to cause an interesting financial situation for her going forward. As we mentioned earlier, Jughead is now working at Pops, gets a call from his agent, wants him to make a book based on his Pops goodbye speech and turn it into a whole book about a town that's falling apart. Jughead doesn't want to do it. Seems like he's probably going to do it anyway.
1,000,000%.
Yes.
The agent's like, do you want to do the thing you did where you just wrote about the life that you're already having? And Jughead was like, nah. And he was like, wait, it's pretty easy. I just type what I see. I'll do it.
Then we go over to Alice, who is drinking white wine in the middle of the day. She is fed up. And wondering where Polly is. Veronica shuts down Chad. Loved how this turned out. Even if Hiram is, as usual, in the wrong, the fact that that pushed Veronica to a place where she needs to confront Chad, I think, is great for her character.
Yeah, that's not going well, that relationship.
No. And then we get these two final little scenes. One that I think was very important, rolling off of the shower scene, frankly. Sorry, Pete. But Archie texting Betty, asking if she's okay, and everything that's going on there, what's going on with Polly. But the fact that they're texting back and forth, I think clearly shows that Betty and Archie are cool with each other. We don't know about Veronica and Jughead and where they stand yet, though things change very rapidly because in a very nice way, Jughead comes to stay with Archie. He wants to stay there. That's great. That'll be interesting when more than one person needs to use the shower at the same time.
Oh, come on.
I got to think that to make it right, Archie and Jughead, it's a two-person only shower now. They need to...
I'm into it. Make Archie happen. It's endgame.
This is going to get... I thought this is a great move for the story. Shit's going to get complicated quickly.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that, like, Jughead, you don't need to stay in the sex bunker by yourself, man. Like, if Archie's got a place, I think that, there's nothing wrong being like, hey, I can crash here. What I'm worried about is Betty's mom blaming her for Polly's disappearance. And then if something happens to Polly, like, what that's going to do to Betty.
That's a classic Alice move. She is a rogue element that will be like, how dare you, Betty? No, wait, Betty, you're my favorite daughter. Also, how dare you? Back and forth. It'll be fine. But as you mentioned, Polly is being chased down by this trucker on the lonely highway at the end, so we don't know what happens to her. And that's where the cliffhanger leaves off. Before we wrap this up...
I love that last shot. It was really scary and Lynchian in a good way. And I think it really shows that they're not just going to do like the horror stuff they've done in the past. They're going to start to get into some other ways of terrifying us on this show, which is great.
So before we wrap up here, though, who is the MVP this episode? Pete, I'm going to go to you first. Who is the MVP?
Well, we got a lot of touching stuff with Pops, and if this is his kind of like swan song, or if, we're going to see less of him, I thought the touching stuff about him holding the jacket and being moved by the kind of retirement thing, I'm going to give it up to Pops. He's been a great part of the show.
What about you, Justin?
Let me just say, Betty all day, air day, baby. This is the Barchie episode we have been waiting for, and we got it in a huge way. I thought that scene was memorable. You know what I mean? Like, whether you're a fan of it or not, every time you close your eyes to go to sleep, you're going to see this, right? Anybody in here in this podcast think that? They're going to be almost haunted by this imagery,
This is this scene to me is like when I used to play Tetris back in the day, and I'd close my eyes and still see the blocks falling. This time it's Betty and Archie in the shower, though.
You lucky bastard! I'd kill for that. But no, I thought this episode was great, and their relationship, just that scene, the way they looked at each other, even before the sex scene, I thought there was just so much in that. Great performances from Betty and Archie.
This is really hard to choose because one thing these last two episodes have done really well, like we've been talking about, is balance the whole ensemble, and everybody gets some really great moments to shine, some fun stuff to play. But weirdly, I think Veronica is my MVP. It's been a couple of episodes in a row now, but I really think Camila Mendez is having a field day with everything that she's doing. She's finding some fun, different notes to play, and I'm enjoying her storyline so much more than I thought I would. It's been a blast.
Oh, and a special shout out to one of my favorite characters in all these shows, Water. Just the concept of water and the fact that we have water and the way when we are dirty, it cleans us off.
Yeah, my other MVP is the pizza guy who's probably outside being like, "Hey, your pizza's here. Where are you guys? What's going on?
You guys order a pizza? It's awful sweaty in there. Hey, did you leave a shower on? Because it's steam coming out of the windows."
"Oh, I've been carrying pizzas all day. I'm pretty sweaty. Can I come into that shower too? What are we thinking?"
"Hey, is this the house full of cannibals in a pretty nice neighborhood otherwise? Because I brought pizzas here and they ate my hand, my non-pizza hand. Anyway, I'll just eat this pizza out front."
Non-pizza hand.
I got to report back to my boss, Mrs. Popcorns or whatever her name was. I don't remember.
And my boss, Miss Crouton, who runs the Italian eatery here.
I knew it was some sort of crunchy food. Anyways, if you'd like to support our podcast, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Riverdale, iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show. Socially, you can check us out at Riverdale Dark on Twitter, Riverdale After on Instagram, Riverdale After Dark on Facebook, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you after dark.
I just wanted to say that for the people who are going through a tough time, I'm sorry, and hopefully we can all get through this together.
I know. I, too, was shocked when Miss Crouton bailed on the school.